the turn of the 20th century, the United States has established itself as a world power. The West was one. People had settled coast to coast. The wheels of change were turning rapidly. The railroads carried mass-produced goods across the nation. Technology made farming more profitable. Telephones were in wide use. No longer was education a privilege of the wealthy, but became more accessible to those who sought it. Besides great economic changes and technological advances, America was beginning to undergo social and cultural changes. It was a time when people felt like they could be part of something that was good for everybody. For a boy named Irvin G. Houchens, born in rural Barron County, Kentucky, the possibilities seemed endless. 1917, the first Houchens store opened in Barron County, Kentucky. Houchens continued to serve the good folks of Barron County during the 1920s from the first Houchens store. Across the country, women gained the right to vote. The Roaring Twenties provided ordinary American families with extra money to spend on new consumer goods like washing machines, vacuums, and most importantly, cars. By the end of the 1920s, the prosperity the nation enjoyed came to a dramatic end. FDR was determined to lead the country out of the Great Depression. And stories like Gone with the Wind and The Wizard of Oz helped people forget their troubles. While the country was in recession, Houchens was expanding with 3 more stores in Glasgow and other cities outside of Barron County. The Bowling Green store's introduction of self-service and frozen food locker rentals brought customers more variety and convenience. The 12th Street store made history with the first live broadcast of a radio program from a store in Bowling Green.
WLBJ, live from Houchens in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
By the 1940s, human history had entered into one of its darkest chapters with World War II. When the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, America responded and proved why the men and women of the 40s were known as the Greatest Generation. In 1945, while the country celebrated its victory in the war, Houchens suffered a small setback as the Glasgow warehouse was destroyed by fire. They moved their headquarters to nearby Bowling Green. Happier times were soon ahead with the expansion of 6 new locations. Prosperity returned to the country in the 50s. Suburban houses became more modern with enhancements to everyday appliances. While the country enjoyed a period of peace, progress, and prosperity, Houchens continued to increase their presence in new communities. They even opened the first store outside of the Bluegrass in Lafayette, Tennessee in 1952.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
The 60s began full of hope, optimism, and a desire for everyone to share in the nation's prosperity.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
There was much to celebrate at Houchens. The company continued expanding into the 1960s and debuted Houchens' first full-service supermarket in Bowling Green. The employees of Houchens saw the fruit of their loyalty and contributions to the company's success rewarded when Irvin G. Houchens established an employee profit-sharing plan. The 70s saw the end to the economic growth the country had experienced in the decades following World War II. The 1973 oil crisis caused a gas shortage and prices to rise. America's faith in government was shaken by the continued war in Vietnam and the Watergate scandal. Even with the country having economic struggles, Houchens flourished while changing its name to Houchens Industries Incorporated in 1972. Stores were introduced to new towns, and Houchens opened its 7th store in Bowling Green, the company's greatest concentration to date. The company reached its peak with 55 supermarkets in operation, making it the most successful period in Houchens Market's history up to that point. The Reagan Revolution of the 1980s sought to restore America's faith in their nation and themselves. The nation mourned the loss of the Challenger crew. Cable television and VCRs changed how people consume news and entertainment. Through a series of events driven by market conditions, Houchens went through a series of ownership changes in the early to mid-1980s. It was during this time in 1983 that Irvin G. Houchens retired at the age of 85. Rule, Sewell, and James Houchens assumed leadership of the company after Irvin G. Houchens retired. Houchens prospered with continued success under their direction. November 12, 1988 represents perhaps the most significant day in the current company's history. It was on this date that the company established the Employee Stock Ownership Plan. The ESOP transferred ownership from its then current owner to the employees of the company at that time. The 90s saw the end of the Soviet Union, a swift victory in the Gulf War, and the debut of the World Wide Web. The country's recession in the early 90s affected the customer base in many of the Houchens market areas. To better serve their customers, Houchens opened their first discount supermarket, Save-A-Lot, in Hardinsburg, Kentucky. Success led to the expansion of 138 stores in 11 states by the end of the decade. Following the success of the late 80s and looking to the future, after 25 years of service to the organization, Jimmy Gibson was elected president and CEO of the company. Houchens continued to diversify in acquiring 42 junior food stores. In February of '99, Houchens expanded outside of the grocery business by merging with Southern Recycling Incorporated, a leader in the recycling industry. Despite worries the Y2K bug would cause computer networks to crash, the clock struck midnight on January 1st, 2000 with virtually no problems. The 2000s would also be known as the beginning of the digital age. The cell phone gave way to the smartphone. People could download their favorite song, connect to friends around the world, and share pictures or video instantly. During this time, Houchens would diversify even more, announcing the merger and acquisition of several profitable companies. Proud past, bold future. Houchens Industries, a century of growth.